Morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you all join us this morning for our monthly Lunch and Learn webinar at Next Northwest. My name is Kent Lewis. I'm the Executive Director of Next Northwest, formerly known as Think Northwest, formerly known as Portland Advertising Federation and SCM PDX. And today we're going to, I have a very special guest all the way from Italy, originally from the UK. Deepak Shukla is been a friend for almost 5 years. We met remotely during the pandemic on a panel and have been talking about monthly ever since. And I've been enamored as a 10-time agency guy with how Deepak has ruthlessly and relentlessly and intelligently built his agency, his global digital agency with AI in the last 2+ years. So I'll let Deepak introduce himself. He's going to walk through some fundamentals. And but before I do that, let me just talk a little bit. Oh, I realize I need to share my screen or else you guys don't know what I'm talking about. So let's talk a little bit about, this is Deepak, he'll introduce himself. But first, I want to talk about a couple of things going on. We want to thank our sponsors, Amazon, Data Speaks, and Viant, are 3 of our corporate sponsors. Next month's Lunch and Learn is future-proofing your analytics stack with Zeke from Data Speaks. Wow, that went a little fast. And register for that May 6th. And then we have an extremely happy hour May 22nd up in Seattle. You can register for it by Friday. You need to submit your awards for the Cascadia Creative Awards. Sorry, this is an auto forward. And then we have a webinar on how to negotiate with difficult clients. Sorry, June 19th. And you can see at the bottom here, just go to nextnorthwest.org/events. How to close big deals or become an unignorable agency. Peter Leviton's based in Mexico right now, but he's worked for Saatchi globally. He's a multiple book author about sales and branding and marketing. And then our big golf tournament is September 26th at Rose City Golf Course. A lot of benefits for members. If you're not a member, it starts at $100 and goes down from there. And you get discounts on all of our events and other services and benefits, 27 cents a day. And as a sponsor, you can reach 350 members across 5 states and 2 provinces. So with that said, I want to hand it over to Deepak to share some incredibly amazing knowledge about what he has learned over the years. And I just realized I don't know how to stop sharing. How does one do that? Anyway, go ahead and take it over, Deepak.
Yeah. Hey guys, good morning. Good afternoon for me. It's 5 p.m. in Italy. So yeah, my name's Deepak Shukla. I speak quickly, which isn't a surprise for many of us. I'm sure you're the same. So if you need me to repeat something at any point, then obviously just ask, let me know. I know that we've got about an hour, 45 minutes of me speaking, but I'm feel free to interrupt me at any point. We're a tight audience, so if there's anything that you want to query or question, then do let me know. My goal for today is to hopefully derive as much value as I can. If there's things that you can take from like my process and how we operate and what we do, then amazing. So the idea is to drive value and maybe build some relationships and go from there. So yeah, I run a company called Pearl Lemon. Look, I think we float anything but between we're a boutique agency. We float in, I guess, in dollars, anything from maybe 1.3 to 1.8 million dollars a year. I work on the agency about now 2 to 4 hours a week every Friday, and the rest of the week I'm doing other stuff entirely. I'm not trying to make a living as a trader and largely losing a decent amount of money doing it. But I guess the important point is, how I guess I've been able to build that. So I'll walk through basically. Yeah. So we've been around for 9 years. We in terms of company structure, it's not surprising. It was 100% remote, but we have 3 offices now. We've got one in Islamabad, one in Delhi, and then one in Durban, South Africa. So I'll talk through kind of things that have been useful for us. The engine for what sustains our growth in terms of where my biggest core focus is lead generation. So we generate around 1,000 inbound inquiries a month and growing. We're growing it maybe at a clip of around 5 to 10% a month. And that is powered by our back office. So we have a team of 20 SEOs who sit in Islamabad. in an office, and all they do is focus on the build out of maybe I don't know 150 or so websites that we have. Um, and we use that as the core, let's say, machine, if you will, to ensure that I'm able to be absent. I'm a great believer in the idea that the biggest challenge I've had in being able to step away from my agency day to day is, well, what if the team screws up? What if mistakes happen? I need to come in and put the fires out. How can I, even in the event of that happening, render my need to be present obsolete? And I'm a great believer in a couple of people say it, and I'm sure it's been people before that, but Grant Cardone talks about, you can never worry about your current sales call if you've got about 10 lined up after that. It allows you the ability to, afford to experiment with price points, positioning, revenue. That alongside what Alex Hormozy says, this concept of more, better, new, meaning that if you do something that's working quite well, do a shitload more of it. And most people underestimate how aggressively they can over-index on one strategy. So the biggest change in terms of my ability to be free from the company was Pearl Lemon. If you were to Google us, we have like about 35 different websites, all for example, singular keywords that we'll try and optimize for at times. So that has been incredibly helpful in us being able to generate a really consistent lead flow. So that's something that feel free to ask me questions about. So in terms of the kind of company structure, we do back office in India, Pakistan. So that means anything that's process driven, ops is there. Partly a little bit in Philippines. We do mid office, which is anything that's delivery in South Africa. So we have the office in Durban. We have a lot of people in Cape Town as well. And then we do front office, which is anything sales, really, if I'm being honest, in the North America, so US, Canadians, and Brits. So that'll be kind of the company structure in terms of how we deliver. That means that we have relatively small revenue, but very, very good profit because of the margins. All of our clients are Western clients, so Europeans, Americans, and Brits, depending upon your views of Brexit. So that's kind of how we look at our flavour of clients. In terms then of what that means in practice, as discussed, Islamabad is where we do the core SEO. India now is where we do anything that relates to so our primary services in terms of clients are SEO and lead generation. So it's cold email, LinkedIn, and then cold calls. So to give you a sense of it, the SEO delivery will happen in Pakistan, but the client manager will be a South African who will work through everything that's happening with the client. And then similar principles with lead generation. A lot of it happens in India, and then we'll have South Africans who deliver. So that's just a little bit about kind of the kind of company like structure, if you will, in terms of like how where we're positioned globally. So now I'll kind of move on to the next section, which relates to, let's call it some of the strategies that have allowed me to I guess be a little bit more free, and we'll relate it in terms of like tools. So one of the things that we use that's incredibly helpful for us is a tool called, let me share my screen for this actually. So give me a second. So if I just jump in, there's a tool called Blue Dot. So Blue Dot, all our calls are hosted in Google Meet. All call recordings are recorded with Blue Dot, and every single call the company has is in this actual app. If I go to meetings here, you'll see that there was a meeting. This is a sales meeting. That's Eon, our managing director. This is a call that I had earlier. This is client catch-up calls. So I'm able to basically look at everything that's happening across the company. This is all automatically recorded via Google Meet. What's really nice about it does all of the standard stuff you'd expect with AI in terms of it does a transcript, it does summary notes here. So it's a very quick way for me to get a purview of what's going on across the company. What's also very useful that I've not really seen other tools do as well is, let's just see, for example, you can do keyword searches across transcripts for any single meeting that there is. So you can look to find particular discussions around any keyword because it can search all of the actual transcripts at large. So this, what we found, has been very useful. Then what we'll do, let's just take an example. This looks like it's probably a sales call. I'm guessing. Having a look at this, yeah, Twisted Tailor's a 10 years old man's clothing company, la 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 la. So we'll take this is what the sales team will do. They'll take a transcript. We'll jump into ChatGPT. You can build custom GPTs in ChatGPT. So we'll go to here we go. Blue Dot Proposal Writer, as you can see here, Blue Dot Proposal Writer. This is just a customized ChatGPT. You can copy and paste the transcript in there. It will auto generate the proposal based upon the discussion they've had in the call. As you can see, it's building it out. With enough prompting, you can kind of get it right. I'll zoom in a little bit because I appreciate that my screen might be tiny, actually. So I'll let that go ahead and build. Then there's a tool called Gamma app, which is an AI presentation maker. And it will... Is this Gamma? Is it called Gamma app or Gamma.ai? Give me a second. I think it might be Gamma AI. Let's see. I don't think it is. I think it is Gamma. Let's see. Log in. Yeah, cool. I think it is. I think they've rebranded, which is why I'm a bit thrown by it. Let's see if I can log in. So depending upon the team's preference, they'll, of course, just shoot the actual proposal that's here into, for example, a Google Doc. But as you can see, executive summary, objective, strategic roadmap, so this is what sales will do to speed up, from one of the things that's increased our close rate is going from call to customized proposal within 15 minutes of ultimately then putting down the phone. And this is what we'll use to build that out. And I think that, did it not go through? Sorry, here we go. Okay, that's annoying. Let me then instead show you. Basically, that's an AI presentation maker. It takes the proposals from Blue Dot, from GPT, and it will create fundamentally a customized presentation. It's probably the best that I've seen, to be honest with you, from the various ones that we tried. I'll just log in with a free account, and it should be able to allow us to do it with the free version even. Yeah, cool. All right, fine. So you can take the proposal, which we've got here. Let's say, you can put that into a Google Doc or whatever you want to do with it. Let's just copy that out, grab that. Yeah, fine. We'll go into Gamma app. We'll go to create new AI. We'll go to paste in text into here. We'll do a presentation as a default. You can set fonts and all of that type of stuff as you'd want to, so you can have it branded to your brand. And then it will, see, limited for generating 10 cards at a time. That's fine. 10 cards, no problem. Maybe I just need to delete a card. Okay, just delete that for the sake of this call. This tool's like $10 a month or something like that. Super cheap. Okay, fine. That looks like we can do it. Go to continue, and yeah, pick a theme. Yeah, fine. Let's just use that as an example. And you'll see that it will build out a quite impressive presentation within like a minute. Yeah, you get the idea with where this is going, and there's abilities to tweak and do all of that type of stuff. A lot of the time that I have spent is doing, let's call it, some R&D to figure out these things. The goal has always been is that how can the quality, as much as service-based businesses, at least with my limited experience, involve a lot of, let's call it, human capital in terms of thinking. The more that I can do, that means the less a team has to think about stuff, the better they tend to do. So the goal is that how can they create everything in as effective way as possible, in as quick as way as possible, without needing to really do it. And as you can see, it's a pretty impressive presentation. So this has that process, if you will, going from the call recording in Blue Dot, where all of the transcript is, taking it into ChatGPT to build a proposal, putting it into, for example, Gamma app, pulling out a presentation. That has led to some of our sales records in the last 3 months since we began to introduce some of these tools, in terms of just the process, because of the speed at which things happen. And that's kind of like one example of what we do to try and really streamline things on the sales side. Gamma app, as you can imagine, the account management team use it to create customized presentations for the client and all of that type of stuff. So that's kind of, some examples of like the tool stack that we'll use, if you will, at least from, well, sales to delivery side. And then returning back to the team structure and what we do, let's call it on a day-to-day side. We have you know what, actually, I don't think that's as important. Does anyone have any questions at this stage about anything that we've discussed so far? No, cool. All right. Well, then in that case, let me continue with some of the other bits I've got here. So the Gamma and Blue Dot has replaced a lot of our tools, and the other areas that we do, going back to the area that I probably do spend the most of my time. So Fridays, if you will, is a day where I actually meet the teams and look at stuff and talk to people, if you will. And then what I will do from time to time is look at what we can do from kind of an R&D side. So, my bias, because I think everyone has, across the agency owners that I've met, everyone has a different bias. So some people, really, really intuitively focus on the delivery or on the SEO process. I'm heavily focused on, like, the one number that I look at is, do we have more leads than not last week? And if we don't, then I know at some point I'm going to have to come in potentially if there's challenges that come up otherwise. And that model with the 1,000 leads a month is, as probably you read it in the précis, has meant that we have a catering business as an example that's all powered by well. So we have a catering company, and again, the catering company. Oh, I didn't tell you, we're about to sign our biggest deal with Adidas. Ken, it's like £50,000, whatever that is in dollars. But again, it all comes through ranking inquiries on Google and then using that to build out new websites and different businesses, if you will. So that's where I'll spend when it comes to R&D, ways of thinking about to follow what we discussed with the Hormozy grant coordinator.
Did I surprise you? It's pretty cute. The cat was up on mom this morning. As
I don't think he's aware. I think he thinks.
Yeah. So I'm on this webinar. I'll hit you up when I'm done.
I hope the cat's okay, Trevor. Cool. All right. Anyway, okay. So yeah, I think that the other things potentially that are worthy of note are that, as I said, the big focus is on the lead flow, and what can we do to increase that, and then invariably from the delivery standpoint, we'll pass on some of those learnings from clients. So a simple example being that when we have a client that we launch with, if they're new to SEO, as an example, we'll launch them with 3 websites as opposed to 1 website. We'll build 2 other websites, and because what will often happen for those clients who are, for example, ultimately using SEO as a vehicle to generate inquiries, well, if all they want in the end is leads, then we have limited, let's call it, oversight as to what we can do with their website, because there's rules and regulations to follow, if you will. So what we'll do is we'll build out some satellite websites where we can do what we want, and that is something, because we do it internally, we pass it on for our clients. So to give you, let me just see if I can call it. Yeah, I'll give you an example of what I mean right now. So just share my screen. Cool. So one of the things that we do as an agency is that we have callers in South Africa that do cold calls. So I spoke about the lead generation side. So I've just searched cold calling agency UK, and this is an example of an EMD that we have. So this is our website, coldcallingagency.uk. And as you can see, it says info at Pearl Lemon Group, because it's one of our sites. So what we'll do, depending upon, once we've determined what a client or internally is a top performing keyword, we'll hyper focus on said keyword rather than going broad. So instead of going broad, we'll go deep once we've understood, well, what is the, for example, area or space that we can 10x upon based upon revenue that we see coming in. So that's one of the key things that we'll look at on the client side. And of course, as you can see, we do the same thing internally. So across the course of keywords that we rank for, there's, like with any business, Pareto's principle is 20% of them that make 80% of our revenue. So then we'll just focus on that, and the goal is to rank number 1, 2, 3 where we can for the same keyword, as opposed to, or where bandwidth permits, looking at other keywords, but that's kind of what typically tends to generate the bulk of the the business that we know that delivers outside of ideas that we have, so to speak. And the other space that's quite interesting is, as you know, everyone's using LLMs more and more, and ranking in LLMs is the big new thing in SEO. And because it's still quite a underdeveloped space, that's probably our second fastest growing channel outside of pure play, let's call them Google search rankings. So we'll typically appear in searches. Let's try it now and see if it comes up. I'll do it in front of you all, and I'll talk through that. And we'll do the same thing for our clients as well. Best lead generation agency UK. Let's just see what comes up. Search in the web. Cool, there you go. So it's fine. So we get 25% of our inquiries through ChatGPT and Grok and Perplexity at the moment because of stuff like this. People are like, oh, cool, I just found you guys on ChatGPT, to be honest with you. So that's a growing part of our strategy. The principles behind that are one of the best ways to rank is, of course, to focus on UGC. Like UGC sites tend to rank really well, which is user-generated content. So you just think about your YouTubes, your Instagrams, anything where there's a Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think people saw your last screen share. I think
sorry.
Yeah, try that again.
I beg your pardon. Can you guys see my screen now? Sorry. Can you see?
It's just all black right now. Now we can see it.
Oh, I need to click on it. Okay, sorry. So I just ran a search for best lead generation agency UK, and then Pearl Lemon comes up as number 1. So I beg your pardon. Sorry, guys. So a big part of what we'll do as a focus is looking at ultimately ChatGPT and other LLMs as a means, as a vehicle to, of course, generate more inquiries ourselves, but also then to pass it on to our clients and do the same thing for them. So it's interesting, actually, and I'll give a nod to everyone saw that, by the way, right? Everyone can see this, yes? Yeah, cool, great. So look, in terms of the things that I try and do right now that are the most highly leveraged is that whole, on the business, in the business, but I try and think about what are the things that I can do that will be really, really highly leveraged that can help support the team. So that's what I will do on a outside of this trading thing, or otherwise I'll be like, oh, is there anything that I could do to really speed up things? So Blue Dot as an example, that was because what's interesting about Blue Dot is that you can record Google Meets without the other person being notified that they're being recorded, which is one of the things that only happened, interestingly, because I was on a call for a trading and the guy said, let's do it on Google Meet. And I was like, I want to record the call. How do I record the call? Because I'm so used to Zoom. So that was how that came about. So, one of the things that I always kind of think about, and there's a book, I need to think of the name, but again, one of the things I'll really try and think about, is there a tool or a tactic that can get really, really high leverage returns? So a good example with the ChatGPT thing that you just saw there is that, where does ChatGPT pull from? Obviously, it pulls from like Google search, basically, and it pulls from knowledge bases. And where does it then determine, how and where does it determine which are the best agencies? Lists, where there's lists of the best ranked agencies. So, what? If you curate your own lists and put yourselves at the top of tons of them, you'll tend to then prompt the LLMs into saying, well, Pearl Lemon seems to appear a lot in these other lists. So that's crudely, how that ultimately search has appeared. So yeah, there'll be the kind of things that I will mull over, and then we'll experiment with it internally, and then pass it on to the team. Now, given that we've got modest revenue, again, I think it's really, it's a process much like anything, but the company. Oh, sorry, I'm seeing questions here, by the way. So I apologize, by the way, if any of you Yeah, cool, great. I'll come to all of these. Well, I'll quickly answer some of these now. If I trusted the AI assets, that's okay. Nathan, sorry, did you want to just explain that one for me a bit more, bud? Maybe I'm not. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, the first note, if I trusted the AI assets, that workflow is super fast. I find that like where I typically spend the most time is trying to like get things into my voice or away from some of the like overly promotional or at like the right fidelity for what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
And so I love that I could, that in the like 5 minutes you were talking through the workflow, that I could see that proposal come to light. I
Yeah.
just, it like the anxiety that I have is like, how much time am I gonna have to sit down to like get that prompt in order, or how much time am I gonna go through revising a deck that's like
Yeah.
not the direction I would typically, right? Fixing a bad deck is like harder sometimes than
Yeah.
writing a new one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that I've had to a degree, come to terms with is, one of the challenges I certainly have as a small business owner is relinquishing control and knowing that there's going to be ultimately a dilution of efficacy because no one's going to care about my business as much as I care about my business. And that's just knowing that, then it becomes my responsibility to think, well, how can I, using a process driven tool, get it as close as it could be such that I'm happy with it? And that's where I began to think about, well, if all of the guys had transcripts because they say stuff in calls, but then practically they write the proposal out maybe 3 calls later and they forget details, they forget minutia. But then also, no one wants to really, if the process of grabbing a transcript is in any way time constrained, people make yeah, again, it's just for me, it's like that was a big aha moment when I began to observe how people sold, and I thought, if I can help them with the process side of it so they can, there's that whole principle about, my sales director, for example, on the chat that you might have seen, I think that we were doing that call off, his power or his sweet space is talking to people. Everything else, he's not very technically driven. He doesn't like writing detail oriented proposals, and I can try and coach him up, but I've realized that it's better for me to give him, at least as best as I can, a tool or a process to do that. It's as process driven as possible. And I found that that was the amplifier in terms of him saying, he's closed more. He had his record month last month, and he was like, dude, it's because I do less of the stuff that I hate and I do more of the stuff I love. And now I'm able to, and that's just yeah. So Gamma Blue Dot, the proposal has been great for that. So no, absolutely. I do understand the challenge of fidelity, and I
I,
think that
I think the focus of like good enough to like test in market is totally spot on. I use AI for podcast like social media workflows, and I let AI do most of my editing now
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's usually good, give or take a sentence or so. So awesome.
Yeah. No, agreed. No, agreed. No, thank you. Um, Yeah, so with the Gamma, I think you can upload custom fonts and stuff like that, as far as I know. So what I did is I just gave my design team access to it and said use the same branding as the website. I wasn't able to log into the company one, but yeah, that was with that then. In terms of the automation of the sales process has been massive for conversion. It's been like really big actually, and it's been lots of so. One of the things so there's been other things that have helped. So one example was that I ran so we had our record month for catering also, and one of the biggest changes was that I bought our head of catering a new laptop for like $400 because she was using an 8 gig RAM Lenovo ThinkPad or something like that, and I was like, you don't even know what you're doing with a machine that's that slow. So I shipped her out a 64 gig RAM, and she said she's able to get out now 4 more proposals a day without changing anything other than the fact she's like, I can have the 16 tabs up. So one of the challenges that I've had, that we all have with remote ultimately work, is that there's a lot of ultimately, almost confirmation bias. People report based upon the problems they're aware of, but all the value is based upon what don't I see. and that's where we all lag. So it only became apparent with, so one of the things that we will do for the people that are the high performers in the company, I'll have a process, and it's now been filtered down to the teams. I do it less, but I'll say to Temi, for example, head of client account management, I said, don't trust anything that anyone sends you or shows you. Get them to share their screen and watch them as they build it and see what they actually do. And you'll discover all kinds of shenanigans that come up. And that was, as an example where someone was logging into Zoom via the web app as opposed to the desktop app. And as a consequence, it was causing their Chrome browser to slow down, which meant during a sales call, it impacted her ability to communicate fluently because she was waiting for a tab to load based upon something a client said. But she never reported that on her list of issues and challenges because that wasn't even a thing for her. So a big thing that has been fruitful for us is again talking about the R&D part of it. If all of you here, as I assume, are, let's call it, the stakeholder. Like, the reality is, for example, I don't in the company have anyone, for example, who I'll pay. If we all consider ourselves, let's say, $100,000 plus a year assets, as an example, I don't have anyone in the team that will really sweat these kinds of problems. So I found that the biggest driver that I can have is to really sweat those kinds of things and to think about it. And again, how can I remove any of these blockers so that people aren't even thinking about them and people aren't even aware of what the actual problem is? And that's where I found that there's been the biggest ultimately return on investment. That it's a lot of these small practical things. So that issue with Melanie, who heads up our catering sales, then led to me saying, cool, we can't onboard anyone until they at least start with a 16 GB RAM laptop, and they have to get it to 32 gig within 3 months, otherwise they can't be here. And we'll give stipends to increase RAM and to increase hard drive space, because there's a lot of people that just like, so stuff like that has been actual big signal. It sounds crazy, but people never are aware of it because people don't report stuff like that. As well as just then understanding, for example, in the remote world, we do a spec check where we also look at people's, like, do you use Ethernet or do you use modem? Now you're using modem, how far away from the modem are you? Let's look at your later, all of these small things that, which is also important, of course, in developing economies, but I've also seen it be a problem in even first world countries because people just aren't aware of the difference it can make. So that's definitely been really important to the process. Let's just keep going through, and feel free, guys, to interrupt, by the way. Where have you seen AI falling short, getting it wrong? How have you created future AI? How much are you having to teach AI? So I use GPT bots. I don't use the AI. So when I say bots, let me just show you what I mean, just in case people are wondering, like, what do you actually mean by that? So if I can people see my screen now, just to double check? Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So all of this stuff here basically are GPTs that I built. So for example, there's one called Talk to Deepak Shukla, which is what I encourage a team to go to before they come to me, because that's what I do when I'm away. I force people to say, look, have you spoken to, so this, if we go out to the build, you can build my GPTs here. And if I go to the create and configure, you'll see it behaves like Deepak Shukla, it gives advice based on blah, 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 from the transcripts provided, and it always has Pearl Leonard's best interests at heart. And what I did is I had one of the guys scrape all 100 videos that I got on YouTube and feed it to the bot, as well as give the actual goals for the company and basically some rules and regulations, as well as a bit of personal information about me and the context. And then we have bots that we try and build out for everything. And there's all of my personal stuff, as you can see here, but there's Pearl Lemon client bot. There's Mel's got her own specific proposal builder for her proposals because it's catering, so the use case is slightly different. And then there's Vishnu, who has a bit of a different cadence. So I was like, okay, let me build out stuff based on his style and his style of work. So as you can see, just by the mere virtue of there being individual people's names, that whole rule of, there'll be one person in your organization that will produce 10 times the value than anyone else. There'll be generalist things that I'll do, but then there'll be very specific individuals that I'll try and work with to kind of build out GPTs or otherwise specifically for the way that they work. So that's how I try and use it, if that makes sense, Lauren. No doubt it gets things wrong, but again, I just revert back to I think maybe it was Nathan that said it, the whole good enough principle that, some of it I kind of, the 10% of it I blind eye it because I'm like, you know what, it's yeah. So Yeah, so Scott, in terms of your question, so when I talk about leads, I talk about SQLs, sales qualified leads. I don't talk about marketing opt-ins. No interest. Our whole model is that we only build pages on our website that are for sales qualified leads. We don't build any blog content. So all of our sites, so to give you an example of what that means in practice, I'll just pull up the Pearl Lemon sitemap so you can have a look at the pages that we built. Oh, sorry, I think I've shared the wrong screen. Okay, now I understand now why. Give me a second. I'll give you an example of what I mean, bud, and you'll see. So can you, yeah, cool, pearllemon.com. Yeah, let's just go to there. Oh, there's other things that we do for conversion as well. So I have always a UK mobile as well as landline. I think the mobiles tend to convert better for the smaller businesses. And then everything is geared towards like bookings. And you'll see that, I mean, our blog is only really used for listicles, top SEO agencies by Clutch, top Upwork SEO agency. So it's just stuff that is the listicle stuff that we spoke about, like top 10, top this, top that, because it's for the GPTs, for the LLMs. So that's why we build that out. And then here we go to the sitemap. If I could just open that up, you'll notice like you'll see, I mean, you'll just see like SEO4, SEO4. People say this stuff doesn't work, like it does work. That's why we do it. That's kind of the kind of core focus that we'll look at. Obviously all of you can look at our sitemap and you'll see it's just geared towards that. And then what we'll do, again, the whole principle is we want to get as many sales qualified leads as possible, of course, to your point. So when we go to the book a call, so the funnel then will be book a call, and you'll see here that it's a bit annoying to book in a call with us. So if I just go ahead and pick whatever, you'll see the company URL, services you're interested in. Okay, here it is. Yeah, so we put the budgets in basically is the only thing. And then the only thing I always find out is what keyword did you use to find us? That's required because sometimes we'll get one new keyword that will basically change the entire way that we'll build out some new pages because that's actually the qualitative data that you don't find in the machines, let's say Ahrefs or SEMrush or SEO. It's that's really the high value stuff. It's like, oh, there's this weird search. One of the searches that we uncovered the other day was, oh, Deepak, what about B2G lead generation? I said, oh, what is that? He's like, business to government. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, because he said someone found us using that, so that's kind of the process. But in terms of proposals being sent, then Scott, to your question, I don't know, mate. To be honest with you, no idea. It's a decent amount. Obviously, we'll close maybe 8 to 12 deals a month, something like that. And I'll also look at that number: how many leads, and then how many sales, and then that's really what I'll focus on. Because then, generally speaking, the money and everything else takes care of itself. And I just say that as long as the lead flow keeps increasing, then I'm okay. So that's kind of a big thing that I look at. So to answer your next question. Yeah, so a couple of things. So in terms of that, then, so I mentioned, so the question Scott asked was about you post your own list, top agencies, and put Pearl Lemon at the top. So that plus, so I mentioned UGC, right? The user generated content. So we'll look at satellite websites. We do Medium, we do LinkedIn, we do LiveJournal, we do Tumblr. So I have a dedicated team that use ChatGPT to write listicles, and we'll post. We'll have an asset, two guys in Pakistan who sit full time writing 20 lists each a day on any platform they can write lists upon, as well as answering Quora questions. Who's the best agency? Oh, well, Pearl Lemon is. On Reddit, who's the best agency? Oh, Pearl Lemon is. It works because we get 25% of our inquiries through LLMs. So we'll do a combination of all of the above. And then here and there, we'll pay for being in other people's lists because you do email outreach and everyone obviously just fucking wants you to pay to be in their list. So where it makes sense, we'll pay. So that will be that combination tends to be kind of, well, for us, it's been effective. As you saw from that ranking. Let me just have a look at look the brand guide stuff. I think maybe a couple. I think that I will say, Nathan, to be honest with you, I'm weak on brand. I'd say me personally. There's guys, but as far as I know, it took a couple of times to get it locked in. But when you say brand guide, sorry, I don't know that I'm being clear. I don't know that I understand. When you say brand guide, just so I understand, but do you mean the brand guide for like our website, or do you mean for Gamma, or do you mean something different? Sorry, I'm realizing I probably should just ask for clarity, Nathan.
Deepak, I asked a question about that is with Gamma. Yeah, do you upload, here's the brand guideline to Gamma and it's doing all that, or you just have a limited set of fonts and colors and shapes?
Oh yeah,
When it generated that. Yeah,
you have
that's
to
what
you have to upload you upload or pick from their kind of selected list. So yeah, that's how we do it. So then yeah, GPT, that's like the $10-20 a month version that I use, $24, not the $200 a month version. Yeah, exactly. It's probably just in the basic one also, to Scott's point. Probably is. I'm not sure. And yeah, no, I think that the other thing, the other ways in which so the my GPTs have been really big in helping support a lot of the team that don't use the biggest challenge that I've seen with people's use of it is people fall down when it comes to, of course, prompt engineering. What are you asking the LLM the right question? So if you can take that problem away from people, then I find that the utility of how we use ChatGPT has increased significantly. And that was where the GPTs came in, because it's like, you know what, I need to write the prompts, because I'm going to be the biggest problem solver. So that's kind of what will happen every so often. I'll come back and say, okay, what else can I do that we could try and systematize stuff to get a net improvement? And I work on the basis psychologically that, imagine that you're dealing with people that just want to process and they don't want to think about stuff. How can I service that individual through the process? And that's kind of what I'll try and lean upon, regardless of where the people are. US, UK, India, Pakistan, everyone wants the same thing. It's like, dude, like Eon's like, I don't want to think about stuff. I just want a proposal built for me so I can just send it. And I was like, okay, cool. How can I have that happen? Um, yeah, I mean, everyone's already asked questions. So if there, are there any other questions that people kind of want to ask about? I guess the only thing then to and feel free to just write it in the comment. The only other thing to add is that, to comment, is that the freedom of time, the system that we use when it comes to the listicles and ranking on GPT has allowed me to experiment with other businesses. You know, we and you know, to I think Ken mentioned that, you know, I had 3 coffee shops in central London at one point, and I mean, I sold all, but ultimately it failed, really, because I sold with a small profit, but really it failed. But what came out of it, which was interesting, was that one day we got approached in a coffee shop where someone said, "Oh, hey, would you like to do a matcha tea event for us?" I said, "Okay," and it turned out it was for Marvel. That was our first ever event. It was like for the Thor event in Leicester Square, and they wanted matcha tea. But then, as a consequence, using the same SEO principle of more, better, new, we saw an opportunity to say, well, it can't be that hard to rank for catering inquiries, can it? And now, 2 years later, that business, it's small, but it's still, you know, it does about $250,000 a year now from catering business that we bring in, and that's all come from listicles, SEO, building out a bunch of catering sites, and working on that same principle. The only other thing I'd say for all of you, you know, assuming you're agency owners, the over indexation on the lead part of it has given me some level of freedom to say, well, let me experiment with stuff. Because I don't, you know, let me generate leads. So the model will be cool. We'll build a bunch of websites, and then 18 months out, hopefully it will get to an inquiry threshold where we can build a business, which is exactly what happened with catering. It took about 18 months, and now we get about 3 inquiries a day, every day, which is 90, including weekends. So 90 a month. And that then translates into Melanie does maybe around 8 to 12 deals a month at the moment. And yeah. So we do catering events, correct, Scott? So the model that I have, so we do video game development as well. We develop video games for Roblox. We've done, that business has done maybe about $120,000 in the last year. Again, how do we do it? It's quite simple. We're good at ranking on Google, so we rank on Google. We get inquiries that come in, and then once I've all the sales guys that I have are sales agnostic. They don't care what product they sell. They just say, look, I want to sell. And then, depending upon what the nature of the sale is, I will go in and do my research, let's call it, to build a bit of a sales model in terms of what needs to be said, how to say it, what to say. I'll give that to the guys, and then the idea is, look, rinse and repeat. And then once we have the money or close to the money coming in, I'll go and then build out the delivery team. So for example, we do Roblox game development and we rank for Roblox game development agency or something like that. And then our team that develop the video games are all based in the Philippines. Why? Because these guys play games all day and they love gaming. So for them, it's like a dream for Stephen and his team that he's got. It's like a dream job to be able to develop video games. So that would be the model. Similar principles with catering. We've got we'll find suppliers in cities. The other thing actually to also point out that's worked for us, it's been quite useful, is that so our catering, as an example, exploded when we started to do international SEO. So what I mean by that is it's much harder to rank, for example, for SEO agency New York, right? Because fucking it's hard. Why not rank for SEO agency Berlin instead and focus on the English language market in international economy? Because the ranking is so much easier. So our biggest deals now for catering have exploded because we do jobs in, same for SEO, we do jobs in Zurich or in Amsterdam or in Stockholm, because ranking in English language searches in strong economies is far, far easier than ranking in English language speaking economies where you're competing against other native speakers. So that has been quite instrumental for us as well. So then we'll always look at, you know, other countries, and the model invariably with these businesses, the catering, game development, the model doesn't change that much in that. And same thing with accounting and legal. Our accounting and legal business, it did about $80,000 last year. Exactly the same thing. We bring the sales in, and then there's no shortage of supply, meaning that there's an abundance of people that can do the work that aren't able to deliver the work because they don't have the clientele. So if we solve that problem, we'll then be able to build the, you know, so that's where the focus will be, and that's why our internal SEO department, which is ironic, is like 3 times as big as our client servicing department. So the 20 SEOs that sit, for example, in Islamabad, 15 of them work on our internal projects, and then 5 of them will work on client side with the other 2 AMs, so that we can. But that's also where a lot of the R&D will happen, in terms of some of these experiments, because you know a lot of stuff doesn't work. The stuff that I'm talking to you about today, I know works because that's what's worked. Well, it's working for us. Let's say that. So I guess in conclusion, the key focus that I think that's allowed me some freedom, and the freedom to make mistakes, because I fuck up a lot, frankly, and I get a lot of things wrong, and a lot of people in my agency when I'm away do stuff that I think, oh, that was dumb, or oh, that didn't make sense. The way that I have come to understand that, to let's say buy freedom, if you will, to live in Italy and with my border collie and go for walks and all of that kind of stuff, or whatever you might want to call it, is good enough is better than my time. But to be good enough, there's a lot more that I can do. I need to get really good at giving people systems, because then they can stand upon those systems. So when I do think about stuff, think about that, and then just over-indexing on, if I have enough sales qualified leads, I can pay through the learning of the mistakes that we'll make, because I'll have the clientele to support it. Because we've had problems, of course, with client delivery and this and that. Everyone's got their school of problems, if you will. You know, we've had several catering events where we got Amazon, Reddit, and TikTok on one day. We tried to deliver it all, and then we fucked up everything. It was like, oh my god, like we were late to this event, that turned up, and it was an absolute disaster. We gave back about £12,000 in down payments, but we had 3 new sales calls the day after, and it's like, okay, how do we learn from this? And in that way, some of the guys that we have got now are pretty good, because you know there's no learning like real in-field learning on work. So that's it, guys. Yeah. Any other questions, if any? If not, all good.
It sounds like, did you answered Scott's question about catering events, and I believe that, you know, I think you went into that story. Yeah. So, Deepak, I want to thank you for sharing your insights. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last 4 years, and hopefully I get to see you this summer in
Yeah.
person for the first time.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your transparency and sharing your insights. And I know a few of the folks on this call, and I think as a longtime agency guy, I don't know any other way to make a living, is that you've done the things I wish I had the balls to do. I wish I had the courage and the knowledge, and the fact that you can run your agency on the 4-hour work week is a testament to, fearlessness and smart. So great job. Keep sharing. Where can people find you, Dee, if they want to follow up? I know you're actually all over the place.
Yeah, look, guys. Yeah, I just put my email in the chat. To be honest with you, feel free if there's anything I can do that can help, then happy to. I don't know why it's doing that anyway, but it's me at deepakshukla.com. The font's coming out weird for some reason on my side, but you get it. Sorry about that. Yeah. So feel free to email me if you've got any other follow-up questions. If I can support with looking at any systems and stuff like that, then cool. That's obviously my agency website. That's it. And thank you, Ken. It's been a pleasure. And guys, I hope that it was useful, and I've not just fucking bored you to death. And you're like, fucking hell, I got up at 8 a.m. for this.
It's good. It's good stuff. Thank you. And just a reminder for the attendees, we've got deadline is Friday for the submissions for your awards for the Cascadia Creative Awards. I use air quotes because it's fun and it's healthy. And also we may be extending the deadline to maybe Tuesday, but that's hard and fast. So try and get it in by Friday. But if you can get it in Monday or Tuesday, we will still honor the submissions for the awards. The celebration will be June 5th at Castaway. Next month's go to, I'll send you nextnorthwest.org to the events section and register for our other webinars and check out our other events. We hope to see you all soon. And thank you all for attending. We will get a copy of this available to attendees and to the broader membership later. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and in your